Hi, my name is Zeke with Highland Park Lapidary, and today I wanted to cut a piece of rainbow obsidian with y'all. It's a little bit trickier to cut, and you got to make sure you line it up just right. So I'm right here by the bin. Let's pick out a piece, and we're going to go cut it. Here at the rainbow obsidian bin. This is rainbow obsidian from Mexico, and we were showing some of this on the live event.
Y'all, Jordan did a good job cutting some pieces. Oh, that's a beautiful piece right there. You can see some nice color poking out. When you're cutting something with a flash like this, it is often, almost always directional. And so you gotta line it up to where your flash is gonna be. That can be a little bit tricky on the rough. Now, if you look at the rainbow obsidian, it's got these, this is a good example right here, it's got these lines going across it. And those are your bands of color. So if we're looking at the lines here, the color is going to be somewhere up there.
Let me see if I can spray this chunk in and show you guys. Try and do this one-handed here.
See a little bit of the purple in
that face right there. A little tricky thing. I'll try to show this. But that's how we look for the color. Now you can take a chip off and you'll be able to see the color a lot better.
But what we're going to do is pick out a piece of this and go put it in the saw. So many good options to choose from. I like that one right there. You can see the banding going across from it. It's got a good texture on it. And I'm pretty certain the color is going to be parallel to this face. So let me go scrub it down and see if we can show you the flash.
So I just went and scrubbed it down. And you can see, man, this is actually a piece of velvet obsidian. Great color showing right there. And it's also showing right there. It just needed a good little scrubbing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go clamp this one in the vise, how I'm holding it like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the light to line it up so I cut parallel to the best flash, somewhere right about there. And we'll see how this looks after we take the slab off.
Hopefully y'all can see this pretty well. This is about the perspective that I look at when I'm lining this up. I'll just take the light and I'll kind of hold it parallel as much as I can here and look for that flash. Now I know the camera's having a really hard time seeing it, but when I look right there and put my light about there, I can see a really good flash right here. So we're gonna cut this and then I'll show you guys the results.
All right, finished up here. Oh man, that's a great piece. Even without good direct light on it, you can see all that fiery pattern in there. I like these weird little eyes. Those are cool. Man, that's a great piece. But now that I put a little too much chain on there. So let's pull it back to about where we need it. And then I'll figure out how much chain we actually need. And we're gonna move it over. Ooh, gotta go the right way. Let's see. Moved it over 7 cranks. So we'll take about 1/4 of an inch off. We know we're lined up good. And
And then we'll make a cab out of this beautiful piece. So lock the vise, check the blade, and then I'm gonna close the saw, but I need 2 hands to get it. So we'll get this started up and take another slab off. We got our Obsidian slab out of the saw there. Took a nice little slice off, and you can even still see the lines going across it right here. Nice little sparkle to it as well. This is just dry, so you'll see better improvements as we go through the piece. But I like to look at it dry, especially when I'm marking the stone, so that I can see any fractures or flaws in the stone. I'm really liking the way that these 2 brighter bands wave together right here. So let's go ahead and mark a shape on here, and we're gonna cut this stone out. You wanna be careful. If you notice, the edges of this slab taper this direction. And normally I would prefer to mark on the side where my edges are the smaller side, so that I don't overlap with the edge too much. But I like this side more. So one thing you can do to prevent that is you can just kind of draw a line and go, all right, I need that much border, you know, approximately. Or you could take this over to your trim saw and trim all these edges flush, so that way you do not have to worry about overlapping. And pick a nice big bold shape here. That's gonna be a good sized cab. And pick that right there. I like the way that it's hard for you guys to see at the moment. You'll see it better later in the video. But there's a really nice wave right there and right there of the purple and then the green. And what I'm using to mark this is a brass screw that I've sharpened. Especially for something like Obsidian, it's incredibly difficult to see if you use something like Sharpie, like a marker. And this way I can very clearly and prominently see my marking. And when I'm cabbing and I'm looking at the edge there, I'll still be able to see this line very well. So this is just a little brass machine screw that I sharpened down to a point. All right, let's go trim this out. All right, well, if you noticed in that video, it was a little hard to see my lines, and that's not because of the brass or the Obsidian. It's because I've been cutting in this saw and it's too mucky. You can see this water is too mucky as we're cutting. So what I should have done is cleaned out the saw, and I would have been able to see those lines a lot better. So take care of your equipment, wash it down. We'll definitely have to scrub this one out for our next cut. All right, now my wheels are out of order here. This is my 80 grit, this is 140 grit, and this is an expanding drum that I can change up to some carbide belts. I usually use 220 or 400, 220 especially.
since this Obsidian's pretty soft, I'm going to move to the 140 grit wheel to do my dome. That'll help with chipping. Normally on most CAD machines people will be using a 220 grit wheel. 140 is what I have to have on the machine. One other thing you'll know is for a sharp point, I never roll over the edge. For a soft point, no problem. So when I'm doing this edge, I'll just roll it all the way around. When I get up to the sharp point, I stop. And if I'm going to do the other side, then I'll flip around and do it the other way. I never roll the wheel over the point if I want to keep it sharp. Now, because I'm doing Obsidian here, I am going to keep a really low dome because all this is quite flash. If I do a high dome, I'll lose a lot of the color, so I'm going to do a really shallow dome on this stuff, which is actually what I prefer. Alright, now when I'm looking at the stone here, if you notice that the height of the girdle is uneven. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and I'm going to work the edge of the stone like this so that I can even this out. I gotta rework the dome to have this flat edge all the way around.
All right, are you ready for the reveal? That turned out stunning. Really great colors, and I love the way the color dances around in there. Very nice Obsidian Cabochon. If you enjoyed watching this video, stay tuned. We're going to do a whole series on going through and polishing different materials that we have in offer. Thanks for watching.